Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Tigers Talk Rugby. Before we get started, if you are listening on Facebook or YouTube, we are on Anchor, Breaker, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Spotify. So please go over and support us on one of these platforms. We've been trying to make that shift, and we really enjoy being on those platforms as it benefits us a lot more as a podcast. So,
and it also benefits you.
Yeah,
it's easier to listen.
Yeah.
So, with that, I'm Ethan Richards.
I'm CJ Bacon.
And I'm Beckett Rice.
And on today's podcast, we are finally covering Premiership Rugby.
Yeah, something that Ethan's been waiting for a long time to talk about.
I have
every day I just look at my phone, get a text. We talked about Premiership today.
Yeah, every single week I'm like, Premiership. Are we doing it? Are we doing it?
You're like that one annoying guy is like, Premiership? ? That every single week.
Every week. So finally we're here, which is a good thing because the semifinals just happened and we're going into the finals next week. So it's been good. It's been awesome. But before we start covering that stuff, let's go all the way back to when Premiership first started back up after COVID. CJ?
So pre-COVID, I think the Premiership, it was just almost like a normal season, right? You had your top teams like Sale, Exeter were just dominating. But let's be honest though, the play, the style, everybody's kind of play wasn't really that good. I mean, it was good. It was just normal Premiership standards, right?
Yeah, it just standards. Kind of filled a standard.
And then you had the Saracens, right? And then you have the Saracens who just play awesome all the time. It doesn't matter when they are, who they're playing. But before COVID, it just seemed like a normal season. And then COVID happened. Everybody had the break. It was kind of weird. And then post-COVID, you saw this holy crap. The Premiership is amazing.
Yeah, I think the players and the system that they built to condense the last 7 or 8 weeks of the season, 6, 7, 8 weeks of the season, down into the space that they did, and really pump out literally games every 4 to 5 days. These teams were playing and rotating in pretty much 2 to 3 rosters depending on the team. It was so awesome. And you got to see every time a professional veteran versus professional newcomer were on the field, you got to see more talent from lack of as frequent exhaustion, because these players would get a week off here and there from playing in the games, and they got it got so good.
But also really lets you look at the young talent that's coming up. I think there's a lot of players that wouldn't have really gotten a shot otherwise, which is really good for them. They got some first team minutes in.
Oh yeah, so. It's really.
Also, I think there's something having to do with a little bit of some of these other guys who maybe are not the number one big name kind of players who who start every single 15 every week. Those guys are able then to play in the the Wednesday, Thursday night or Thursday matches, and then dominate and then show their talent. Like AJ McGinty. You don't normally see him starting at 10 for Sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
he's
then
quality though.
He comes in and he just dominates the field and really shows that he is a superstar kind of player.
See, I think that's one of the best things with Sale is they have one of the best starting and bench 10 combinations, because either one of them could really be the starter. Him and Dupree's.
Yeah, because obviously you got Dupre's and he's pretty good.
Yeah.
He's a pretty good 10.
So let's talk about Sale a little bit, because they were number 5 and they were 3 points behind Bath going into the last week of the season, and their game had to get canceled because of COVID cases. So they were unable to compete for that playoff spot, which is huge because the difference between going into that week, the difference between number 2 and number 5 was like 3 or 4 points. Like it was literally like 1 point between all the teams going into that last week. And like at that point, anyone could have made it. And then clearly like Wasps obliterated Exeter in that game, which was awesome considering that's spoiler going into our finals next week. And then like you got to see all these teams like get there and put some points up, and you're like, cool. Like now it's down to Sale or Bath. Like who makes it, who gets it, and Sale lost their opportunity.
Yeah.
So do you think that Sale
cases?
Do you think that Sale, if they were in that semifinal and say I think they were just supposed to play Exeter.
They would have played Exeter.
Do you think that it would have been a closer game, or even Sale would have won? Because we saw that Exeter Bath game, and Exeter easily handed Bath a loss. So
I feel like I think it would have been closer, but
I think it still would have come out with an Exeter victory.
Yeah, I think Exeter would have still won.
Yeah, I think Exeter is just a stronger team at the end of the day, and I think that would have Sale probably would have had more points on the board than Bath because it was not a good looking game for Bath. I'm gonna be very clear about that, but I think
even with the talent that they could put out on the field with like the DePrea brothers, the Curry brothers, you got Faf maybe in there, you know.
Yeah,
I know Manu's injured.
Manu's hurt. I think he tore his ACL.
But you still have like a decent amount of talent. Do you think that talent could be able to rival Exeter?
I think it would have. I think they would have put up a more respectable score line.
The reason why I think the Exeter would have won is because in late August, when things started to come back and things were starting to get into stride, Exeter and Sale played a game in which Exeter came out on top. And so even with that hard loss to Wasps, I think that would have actually brought Exeter to be like, we need to come into playoffs with fire. And they would have turned it around and been like, we can beat them. They have the confidence. They have the like intensity that they would want going into a playoffs game. And I think they would have still taken the game.
Mm-hmm.
So, but God, one thing that like we talked about Sale and Exeter a little bit. A team that didn't get in, we're not mentioning them as being top 5, but was absolutely competitive with those top 5, Saracens.
Yeah. Saracens were bottom of the table, definitely not for the way they were playing rugby.
Oh, absolutely. Especially that. Yeah, like they tied Bath in that last week. It was 17-all. It was a scrappy, hard, good game from both sides. And it was just like they showed that they have the prowess, but now they're getting relegated. What do you think this means for the Premiership?
I think it means 1 year off where Saracens isn't dominating, and then they'll be back.
Well, it's essentially a 2-year kind of non-dominant break, because even though Saracens is still playing this season in the Premiership, right now they're not like in the big top contender, top 5, number 1 on the table kind of conversation. So between this year and then you're going to see next year, you're probably going to see the same sort of second half of the season as we did this year, where you have like the top 5 teams between Exeter, Bath, Bristol, Wasps, and all these, these teams are going to be, probably pretty even next season. And then maybe Exeter just edges it out just because they're just that good.
Yeah. I kind of see what CJ's saying a little bit, but I think it's just going to be the 1 year bye, because even though they were playing the season, and they had no weight to their own chances to be in playoffs or be the champions this year, they still impacted the top 5 of the table, top 6 of the table, top 7 of the table. Like their impact was so strong. So I think it's just going to be the 1 year off, and then we'll see them come back in with insane, fierce, just like willpower that'll bring them to be competing for the top of the tables.
I see them
2022.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it'd be 2022. I'd see them coming back and still being that what they've always been, that dominant side. But I feel like they'll return with like maybe a step slower. Like team, like Saracens being around has always sort of put Exeter in their shadow. They've always been like the second best team behind Saracens, right? And I think now we're starting to see teams like Bristol and Sale maybe coming up on the come up to like match them. And I think the time down there, Saracens might, lose a step. They're not playing as good competition. I think they've announced they're some of their players. A few players have left the team. Most of them have re-signed, but it'll be interesting to see how much of their dominant self they are when they come back. I think they'll still be at the very worst, like 90% of what they used to be at the worst. But
90% is still like
90% still good enough to win the league.
Yeah,
they're still good enough to win the European Championship, honestly.
Yeah, well, Exeter's in the final for that, not Saracens. So.
Yeah, I was about to say Exeter they're rolling a lot of finals this year.
Yeah, although they got to play the god that is Finn Russell in the final, so we'll see how they do.
Yeah. So, we've talked a lot about Exeter in comparison to like Saracens and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about our finals for this Premiership Championship this year. Exeter versus Wasps. Both teams obliterated their semifinal games.
Mm-hmm.
I think Wasps was a much more controlling, intensive game, and like we had mentioned before, we were talking before we hit the record button about like Bristol scoring during dead time, and it just kind of being like garbage time tries at the end of the game just to like make the score look better. But like
I think it was like the 70th minute they were up. Wasp was up 47-12, and then Bristol scored 2 tries to make it 47-24. So it looked a bit more respectable there at the end.
Yeah, but like, what does that say about these two teams going into this finals? Because I think right now, like, we are genuinely getting the best 2 performing teams in the Premiership at this point.
Well, listen to this. Okay, I've got a few seasonal stats for Exeter and Wasps, like comparing each other. Like their total points for both of them. Wasps has 709 total points, whereas Exeter has 665. Mm-hmm. Wasps scored 86 tries all season. Exeter has scored 88. Like, and then you look at meters gained and stuff like that. It's 8,600 to 8,500.
So with Bristol coming in at 10,500. Just a mile ahead of everybody.
And but you see where like this is getting at. Like these two teams, that they're the best teams in the Premiership right now, and they're obviously like statistically very even too.
Well, I think there's another stat I want to point out. So Wasp led the league in turnovers with 161. Second was the Tigers with 156, and then Irish with 145. What is super interesting is if you go by individual stats, you go to turnovers won. Jack Willis is number 1. I'm not sure if this is a typo. Jack Willis is number 1. It says he won 44 turnovers. Number 2 has 19.
I was about to say he has been obliterating.
Yeah, so Jack Willis is evidently the greatest poacher of all time, and we should bow down to him.
I mean, maybe that's all he does for them. Is that he's just that one guy is like, all right, the only thing we want you to do the entire game. We don't care if you score. We don't care if you get the ball back. Like you carry the ball whatsoever. Just go and get that turnover.
Yeah. They're like, watch this Richie McCaw highlight of him just poaching the ball. I want you to do that.
Emulate it every time. Just keep doing it. I think what you were mentioning is just like, it's so telling that they're like, the 2 other teams that are right behind them for turnovers are at the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
And then they're just like literally battling in the finals. Yeah. I think that's a big takeaway as well.
It shows really that they're the top offenses. And I think they're also some of the top defenses. They have some of the best defenders on their sides, and I think it's going to be,
it
all
just means
around
that
a
they can do
fantastic
something with
match.
it. You know, So I think the biggest thing for me is when you look at these teams, like, not only were their points differentials like over 150, you had roughly 167 and 180, I believe, or 190, somewhere in that range.
187 point differential for Exeter and 165 for Wasps.
Thank you. Oh, okay, there we go. I froze. We're good. I'm back. So, yeah, like, you look at those points differentials, and like, they are like just dominating teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you see their bonus points are like highest in the league. Like, these teams like don't go out and win close games. They win dominant games. Like, and I think the most telling and most nerve-wracking thing that Exeter has going into this game is, if you look at the score of the game in the last week of the season. Granted, on the other side of the coin, Exeter couldn't lose their first place ranking in the end of the season because they were just literally that far ahead in points. So they could sacrifice putting on a second side, or even like half of their third side, whatever. They could just put whoever they needed to put on the field, save their strong players for the semifinals and finals games, and just be like, screw it, we don't need that game, it doesn't matter to us, like, we've got this.
Yeah.
So like, on one side of the coin, like, does that give the Wasps the confidence knowing, like, hey, we obliterated like at least the brand of Exeter Chiefs in the last week of the regular season, we can do it again. You know,
I think also Exeter, though, in that game was also, I don't have the roster in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it was not their full side. I think they
was not.
Yeah, they'd pretty much, they had first place locked up, and they're like, we can take a rest here and get ready for the playoffs. So yeah, yes, Wasps did obliterate them, but what Exeter team were they obliterating? You know,
right?
That's the important thing to look at.
Yeah, like that head-to-head between these two teams is going to be really interesting, because like in their past, it's 17 total wins to Exeter to 8 total wins in this head-to-head matchup. But like the last 3 meetings between these guys, it's like obviously the thrashing of Wasps over Exeter, and then the time before that, Exeter thrashed them in a 38-3 defeat or win, and then the time before that, it was a close one with 26-19. So these guys are also evenly matched, and depending on, I don't know, it's literally going to be like 1 or 2 things that they go into with a game plan that are probably going to be able to, if they find that 1 or 2 things that they can exploit from the other team, that's going to be the decider.
Mm-hmm. I would love to see a really strong tactical kicking game out of both teams in this final. I think that's, for me, is what will decide who wins this game, is who has better territorial control with their kicking game.
Yeah.
I think that's for me what I think the decider will be between these two teams. I think they're pretty evenly matched.
Well, defensively, the only team that allowed less points than the Chiefs were Sale, who had a huge lead. They allowed 375 points, and Exeter allowed 443. So I think, and we all know that like the Exeter pack is just they're gonna grind you down and then get it out to their backs. And same thing defensively, but both these teams just have stellar defenses. Wasps are better at turning the ball over, but the Chiefs are just better at not bending.
The Chiefs are, if you look at the Chiefs tackling stats, they have 3,277 tackles to Wasps is like 2,500. So the tackle, that goes to show exactly what you said, that they're really good at breaking you down and getting a lot of those tackles. And You know,
Mhm.
especially
Just
within
until
the
you make a
forwards, because
mistake.
you see that all of their top tacklers are, you know, they're 4, they're 5, they're 7.
Mhm.
That's it. Like it's all those guys who are not right in the ruck, but like a little bit outside of that first, or like right in front of the right in front of like that first receiver.
Yeah.
Right,
So,
which is why, like, when I say, like, I think the kicking game is what's going to break this game open and is what's going to be a decider, is because when you have like consistent defense and you have strong tacklers and whatnot, what you like, the way that you break that down is you force the play to get a little bit more messy. You force the play through like doing a box kick and contesting those balls, and you make it to where you're not playing a ready up, come back, ready up, make the tackle, come back sort of defense where it's structured, standard, basic, like just get in position, do it consistently, do it
you
strong,
try to
get good
chop it up
tackles.
a little bit more.
You want to change that pace. You want to avoid letting them set up a good structured defense. And I think that's what's going to break.
And
this
also
game.
get that territory. I think that the territorial kicking, like you've
absolutely
saying, that's really going to be important. Who can keep the game in the other team's half, and maybe, you know, force some penalties in good positions to be able to kick for points that, you know, one of those kicks could be the deciding points that win the game.
Yeah, I mean, you make a really good point back about the territory, but I also think that the kicking game for like this one, for this game, and honestly with a lot of games, right, is that a lot of teams nowadays are kicking for not only just territory, and kind of like what Ethan was saying, like trying to chop up the play a little bit, but for momentum.
Yeah.
You know, to control the momentum. You know, so that if you're one team is just, you know, hammering it home, you can maybe slow it down a little bit by kicking it, or if you need to, you could just, you know, kick it down their throats all day long, and the momentum's in your favor. So I think maybe that might have something to do with it this weekend.
Yeah. And one last point on the kicking for me is that because these teams were in the finals, we're in post-season play, they don't need to worry about scoring the tries to get bonus points. So getting those penalties in the opposing half and just getting the 3 points is so much more valuable in this game than it was in previous games in the season. So like, again, like puts more value on it. So with that, I think we've covered our points. Do we have any final thoughts on what the finals is going to look like from either?
Well, the final score would look like?
I feel
final thoughts. It could be final score.
I'll give you my final score if you really want it.
Maybe.
Yeah, if you want to do predictions.
Hey, you want to put something on the line for a prediction?
Oh,
well, we saw how that last one.
Do you want to get a little bit of revenge? Double or nothing. Okay, guys. Okay, everybody on the podcast. This is I haven't asked them to do this yet, but double or nothing. We'll get 2 cartons. I
like it. Okay.
2 cartons of eggs.
So which one of you is picking which team?
Yeah. Who are you?
Oh, no. We'll do score. We'll do score.
Score. Okay.
Score predictions. Okay. Let's clarify right now. How is the score predictions going to work? Closest total scores, or?
Yeah, we're doing the over under at like 50 points total. Like, is that what we're doing?
I was thinking like, why don't we just say like the point differential? I was thinking how close the point differential.
Oh, how close the game will be. Okay.
Yeah. So like if I say 26 to 13, it ends up being a 13-point differential then.
Okay.
Towards the team that I was thinking.
Okay.
Does that sound fair?
Yeah. So what team? Okay, that sounds good. What team do you think, and what's your score?
All right. I'm going to go with Exeter Chiefs.
Okay. And
I think this is actually going to be a little bit of a low-scoring game. It'll be close-ish. And let's go 21 to 13. 21 to 13.
Okay, so you're thinking an 8-point win.
Yeah, I'm thinking 8 points.
Okay. I want to say Wasps. I really want to say Wasps, but I'm going to have to also go with Exeter. And I'm thinking it'll be a little bit higher scoring than what you're going with. I'm thinking more along the lines of, say, 23 to 18. So it'll be a 5-point differential is what I'm thinking.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I am also gonna say that Exeter is gonna win. Points differential. See, I was thinking it was gonna be like come down to those nail biters of like a like a either a last minute try to win it and make it like a 26-21 game, but then also I'd be at negative, or I'd be at a 5-point differential. So I can't, I'm not going to pick that, unfortunately. Maybe I'll say 26-20 and do a 6-point differential.
Okay.
And
So we're doing all
Clever
three of us,
man.
and then whoever has whoever's furthest off from the point differential gets egged.
That sounds fair.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? We'll do a tiebreaker. We'll
Ethan
do
at an
a total
advantage, though,
points
'cause he's in the
combined. We'll
middle.
see what happens.
That does put me at an advantage.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that, but you're right.
Yeah.
True.
Total points.
Yeah.
Okay. Total points combined is the tiebreaker, I guess. Then.
Yeah, total points combined will be the tiebreaker.
Okay. That sounds good. All right.
Awesome. Well, on that note, thank you for watching another episode of Tigers Talk Rugby. Before we go, I would just like to say that if you have not looked at our Anchor subscription stuff, if you want to help us make this better and enjoy it more, go over to Anchor in the link in the description, and you can subscribe to us for a 1 month, 5 month, or 10 or 1 month, 5 month, $1, $5, or $10 donation monthly, and it really will benefit us, and we'll be able to kind of shift towards doing more and building more content with you guys. So yeah, with that, thanks for listening.
Go watch some rugby, because especially there's a final on this week and there's test rugby. So there is no excuse. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, have a good day.